The time has come for Mexican shepherd's pie. It's a beany, cheesy, corny, porky, magical little pie. Ooh, ugly, but delicious. So you're going to start out by cutting up a couple pounds of pork into 2-inch cubes. Then you're going to salt that on both sides. Then you got to wash about a pound of tomatillos and 3 or 4 Anaheim chilies. You can use poblano too, a little spicier. 5 or so cloves of garlic, half an onion roughly chopped. Then you got to sear yourself some pork. Give it some pokes. Just looking to get a little bit of color. So if you're not using an Instant Pot, you can do this in the stovetop. You're looking for essentially just a fork tender texture for the meat when it's done cooking. It'll take a little longer though. So put in a tablespoon of cumin directly into the oil. Throw in about a teaspoon of black pepper. Then add in that onion and garlic that you chopped up. Stir it around. Throw in a bay leaf, about a teaspoon of Mexican oregano, and then add all those vegetables. Then throw the pork in, give it a toss. Add in a little bit more salt just to get the liquid coming out of that beautiful veg. Put the lid on, seal it for 30 minutes at high pressure. Now it's time to make some frijoles charros, cowboy beans. So chop yourself up some bacon. Then I want you to render it down over medium-low to medium heat until it gets nice and crispy and colorful like this. Ooh. Bacon. Then into that bacon fat, add some chopped up garlic cloves. Let those sweat for a couple of minutes and then put in some onions and stir until translucent. This is still over about medium heat. Then throw in a teaspoon each of cumin, coriander, cloves, cinnamon, black pepper, and smoked paprika. Then throw in just a little bit of cilantro and return that bacon to the pan. Now it's time to add some beans. But just before you do that, add about a teaspoon of thyme. Oh, and don't leave that in there. That's definitely not good eating. So scoot the beans to one side and put in a tablespoon of tomato paste and stir that in to the mixture just to get it caramelized a little bit. This adds a lot of umami. You're going to want to squish up a lot of those beans. You could actually blend part of it to make a puree, but I find that this is just as easy and just as rustic as I want. Steamy. So now, next step, we're going to make some corn, delicious esquites. So what I want you to do is clean off a couple of corn cobs, take off those husks, and then I want you to stand it vertically on a plate and cut those kernels off. Kernel off the cob. So then you're going to end up with a couple of beautiful little pieces like this, and in that same cleaned out pan, add a little bit of oil. And put those bad boys in at around medium-high temperature so that you can get some good color on that corn. I'm using a mixture of yellow and white here. So put a little hole in the middle, add a teaspoon each of garlic powder, ancho powder, coriander, smoked paprika, cloves, and thyme. The usual adobo ingredients. Video coming soon on that. Let it sit for a little bit, throw in a little bit of cilantro, and about 3 minutes later, take it out, top it with some cotija cheese, and you've got yourself a delicious side. So separate the pork from the vegetables in the stock pot or Instant Pot. Using either an immersion blender or a regular blender, give it a good puree, and then reduce that sauce. Remember this happy little ball of masa? If not, here's a link. It's going to taste delicious. And then go back to that same pan and make a layer of the corn. Beautiful. Top that with a little bit more cotija, because cotija is delicious. And then top with a layer of your favorite melting cheese. I'm using Oaxaca here. Delicious. So once you get a good layer of that, do the same thing with the beans. Try to spread them out as evenly as you can, and don't disturb the cheese too much because it's going to melt into a delicious cheesy slumber. So cheese at each layer. Extra cotija. If you can't find cotija, you can also use romano. All right. So I shredded that pork and I added back a little bit of that reduced and blended sauce. And now I'm making a layer of that too. And now you know what time it is. More cheese. Beautiful. So break up that masa over the top. You don't want it to be covering it completely, because when we broil this, it's going to get nice and crispy in the oven. Extra cotija goes on top because why not? And now it's time to bake. So I put it in at 400 to start, just to melt the cheese. And to finish it off, you broil. Beautiful. Look at the bubbles. Corny, porky, cheesy magic. Delicious. So get yourself a plate full and be sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. I haven't seen anything like this before, but if you have, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. See you next time on Sam Goes and Eats.